Good morning to all of you. Welcome to Sri Lanka, Dr. Xavier and Mr. Maulana. Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration and Home Affairs, Mr. Abekwan, Mr. Weeratunga, Director, Srida, and our senior colleagues. Well, I'm a little bit sad that I was not able to talk to the first group. But I think this is a great privilege for me to be able to share some thoughts with you this morning, particularly because of the topic that we are concentrating on, that is managing challenges, strategies for public sector leadership. Let me first tell you how broad this topic is. I hope you will realize there is a whole lot of things to learn. Please clear your mindsets that you are here to learn. There's so many things that you can learn. Maybe from the resource persons and maybe from among yourselves. And that is why networking would be extremely important. Let me start by sharing with you a quote from the French essayist Michel de Montaigne. I don't know whether you have read him, but those of us who have read him, I just thought this is extremely valuable when we talk about leadership in the public service. We talk about seniority. We talk about how many years we have been in the service. We will also talk about the qualifications that we acquire in our long tenure in the public service. But let me tell you what Montaigne talked about life. The value of life lies not in the length of the days, but in the use we make of them. A man may live long, yet live very little. Meaning, maybe 35 years in the public service, 20 years in the public service, but what have you done? What have you done during that time? Can you sit down and think of your accomplishments? These are the things that I did for the country. These are the things that I did for my fellow beings. These are the things that I did for the people who come to me. This is extremely important. I think this also should be something that our public service should have like a motto. Now, having said that, just a couple of days back, or a couple of weeks back, His Excellency the President, when he presented the budget for 2013, made a very important point. I only hope you caught it. He said in 2013, you are looking at the public service delivery, and focusing on how well we are doing it, the quality of public service. When someone comes to you, what is that window of opportunity you have got to service that person? Will that person go with a happy mindset, or will that person go with a mindset where he will say, what is the use of the public service that I am paying for? Remember, we are all being paid by the people's taxes. This is something that I keep on saying. If we were in the private sector, I was very fortunate to have started my life in the private sector, so I know how difficult it is. When I was taken in as a management trainee, the first words of advice from the top managing director was, you have to earn your salary. We are not givers here. There are no donors. You earn your monthly salary, and these are the things that you have to accomplish. That is, I think, very sacrosanct in public service as well. Unfortunately, in the public service, you don't need to do this, because you know, year in, year out, you will get your salary. So there is no compulsion. There is no measurement. But countries like Malaysia, I'm a very keen follower of what successive prime ministers, starting from Dr. Mahathir Mohamad to the present prime minister, what they have done. I was very privy to Dr. Xavier the other day. McKinsey Consulting had done something for the Malaysian government, and they showed us what these things are. And they just took 6 points, nothing else. key words were whether they were delivering the services that they are expected to do. Now, if you also look at the British Prime Minister of 1998, I don't know what's his name, Tony Blair. Tony Blair, when he came on the second term, not the first term, the second term, within the first 5 days, he asked one of his trusted officers, someone who was very good in evaluating, Michael Barber, right? Michael Barber, to set up what is called a delivery unit. All what the delivery unit did was to measure, find out whether the public service is being delivered to the people. So here we are, in this workshop, we are talking about managing challenges, but I want you to think beyond. In managing the challenges that you face, how are you performing? 2 or 3 ways of doing it. Maybe in managing challenges, you succumb to it. Oh, I can't keep up with the pace or whatever. And then you just start living by the day. You just live. Others who will take it as a real challenge, think of strategies, think of ways and means of overcoming the problems that you face. None of us has a smooth run. None of us. Whether it is a assistant divisional secretary who is just there after a year's training at the SRIDA, or myself who is at the secretariat, we have in between so many things to do. All our lives are complex. All our lives we have challenges. But how do we cope? How do we meet? And how do we ensure that at the end of the day, you have done what you have to do? So, gentlemen and ladies, I think I'm very glad that you have been able to come here. Very often when I ask people to come for a retreat, they have 100 things to say. I have this, I have that, I don't have time, all sorts of things. But if you're asked to go to Siberia for a week, you will go. Very difficult circumstances, minus 40 degrees, minus 50 degrees. You can't even enjoy life, you can't even get out. But because you're going abroad, you will go. But I think the public service at your level, this is why I was very keen that the Commonwealth Secretariat share some of their thoughts. I also want to bring other institutions so that they can talk to you, tell you what other countries do, how they have, as Vijay said, sharpened the saw, so to say. How do you do these things? Because here is a country after 30 years of terrorism, we're just getting about, we're just building our roads, building our infrastructure. But more than anything else, you and I have a great obligation towards the people. You have to deliver what they expect us to deliver. Now don't expect, and don't take me wrong, not that every request that comes to you can be done. It cannot be. If that is possible, you don't have to be here. You are there to think of ways and means of finding out the best possible solution. If you can't do a thing, well, you don't just tell the person, no, I can't do it, but you will explain to him or her few minutes. This is why it cannot be done. But please remember, some of those things that you couldn't do because the law did not allow you to do, finally will accumulate at the top as a policy. This is how policies are made. It always comes from the bottom. You people who have been dealing with the lowest level of handling public services, you are the policy makers. You are the people who give to the top. There's a problem like this. Year in, year out, people come and ask us. There's a huge issue. The law does not permit us to do it. How do we do it? That's how policies get formulated. If you look at the policy formulation cycle, and that is why it is a cycle. It goes back to you. It comes back from you. That is how it is refined. Now you will get to know all this when Dr. Xavier speaks to you. But I just want to make your mind clear that you are so important in this. I have always said this country must have at least 200 to 300 people who at any point of time can be charged in becoming a secretary to a ministry, take the top level positions, Unfortunately, the position of additional secretary is not very well defined. I'm very sad about it. Additional secretaries are not there just to send the file up to the secretary. That is not what you should be doing. Additional secretaries are there. Having worked with some of the best additional secretaries, I can tell you this. Having been an additional secretary myself for many years, you are there to support your secretary. You're almost a secretary. Once the Minister of Education, Mr. Richard Pathinanda, told me, doesn't matter, Mr. Weeratunga, doesn't matter whether you are the additional secretary or secretary. I was additional secretary education then. I reminded him that I am not the secretary because he was giving me orders as if I was the secretary. He said, doesn't matter. What does it matter? Whether it is additional or secretary, you're almost a secretary. I suddenly realized this is what you are there. So please take that mantle. Please take that responsibility. I would love to see additional secretary telling me, this is how I think this should be done. These are the suggested means of doing it. These are some of the strategies I saw elsewhere. Why don't you think about it? That's the kind of input that you should be giving. You will realize then that the day you become secretary, that kind of advice is so valuable.